Hello, my dear children. Welcome to our class. In this video, we are going to see a chapter 6 in the history of class 8. Let's go to the chapter. History, chapter 6, the Revolt of 1857. So, what are the learning objectives from this chapter, children? The origin and the nature and the spread of the revolt of 1857 and the changes in the colonial after 1857. So this is a video part 1 of the chapter revolt of 1857. So let's see the topic. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 was a major but ultimately unsuccessful uprising in 1857 to 1858 against the rule of the British East India Company, which functioned as a sovereign power on behalf of the British. So let's see this in detail, children. See this picture. The picture shows a Joan of Arc on horseback. Joan of Arc, her period is 1412 to 1413, is widely remembered for leading the French army against the English in the 100 Years' War. So actually she successfully foiled an English attempt to conquer the France that was her country, and however a year later she was captured by the English and sentenced to death. So after the death, she acquired the status of a saint and became the symbol of a national consciousness in France. And I'm going to show some of the pictures of our Indian women who was called as Joan of Arc, India's Joan of Arc. So Mrs. Sarojini Naidu, Indira Gandhi and Begum Hazrat Mahal and Rani Lakshmi Bai and Alia Bai Hocker and Aruna Asaf Ali and then Gopal Joshi and Rani Chennamma and then Lakshmi Sagal and Akama Cherian and Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. So these are all the women who are all fight against our Indian freedom and then for our Indian freedom and then against the British people. Some of them are against fought against the British people through their indirect and then direct activities. So like the French Joan of Arc women, so they are also called as India's Joan of Arc. Okay, children. And the next one, what is the revolt of 1857? So in the previous chapter we saw how the various social, economic, political and the religious policies of the British began to create the dissatisfaction in the minds of the Indians. So there were a series of passions and tribal uprising in the later 18th and the early 19th centuries. So but since most of these uprisings were spontaneous and the unorganized, so they could be crushed easily by the British. So, however, discontent continued to simmer among the various sections of the Indian population and manifested itself in a major way, the revolt of 1857. Children? And the next one, what are the causes of the revolt of 1857, children? So there are 8 major causes for the revolt of 1857 by the several factors that had been accumulating over years. First one is economic causes, and the second one, decline of traditional industries, and the third one, decline of agriculture and famines, and the fourth one, land reform policies, and the fifth one, political causes, sixth one, social and the religious causes, and the seventh one, military causes, and the eighth one is the immediate cause. So these are all the factors and then the causes of the revolt of 1857. Children, there are how many? There are eight causes, major causes for the revolt of 1857. So let's see the each causes. First one, the economic causes. So, the exploitative economic policies of the British were to a great extent responsible for the massive uprising, children, because there were down of the industry in economic. Economical development of our country India on that period of the British people. So there were a huge economical conditions were lost. And the second one is the decline of the traditional industries. Decline of the traditional industries. So the flourishing handicrafts industry sustained by the Indian artisans was ruined under the new economic policies of the British. So these policies were formulated to rule out the competition and turn India into the source of a cheap raw materials and a raw market for finished goods and the mass produced in Britain as a resultant of the industrial revolution. Okay, and we go to the next third one, the decline of the agriculture and famines. Okay, so much of land that was traditionally reserved for the food crop production was forcibly transformed into the land for the commercial crop cultivation by the British. So this ruined the agriculture and led to the severe shortage of food and caused the frequent famines in the various parts of our country. So the British remained indifferent to the poverty and suffering of the Indians. So I'm going to show some short video of like the famines. Okay, wait, children. Let's see the video. It's a sample video for the famines and the agriculture cultivations.
That the United Nations really are united, not only for the prosecution of the war, but for the solution of the many and difficult problems of peace. Agriculture, the most basic of all human activity. Agriculture, the most basic of all human needs. Twice as many people are employed in work on food and in agriculture as in work in all the other fields of human activity put together. And all people have, in the literal sense of the word, a vital interest in food.
If the plans FAO put forward in 46 had been carried through, there would be a big world reserve of food, with a big fund behind it, and in the countries where there's a surplus, that would be bought, and the farmers had got the money, and the food would then have been sold to the countries of the country.
So, have you enjoyed this video, children? This is the video, a sample video for the famine, example of famine, and then the crop cultivation in the British period. So, let's see the fourth topic as a land reform policies. So, the exorbitant rates of the revenue demanded by the British under the new land revenue systems displaced the peasants from the lands or reduced them to bonded laborers perpetually in the debt. So, if they failed to pay revenue sometime, the new owners with no traditional ties with either the land or the peasants did not little to stem and study to decline of the agriculture. Okay. And the fifth one is the political causes. What is the political causes, children? So nothing that the policy of annexation practiced by the British unjustly disposed many Indian rulers like the Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi and the Nana Sahib. As a result, these disgruntled rulers became the enemies of the British and went on to the lead of the revolt in their respective regions. So we will read more about them later in this chapter, children. So next one is the sixth caste, that is the social and the religious castes, children. So the social reforms introduced by the British, such as the abolition of sati and the child marriage and the legislation of widow remarriage and the introduction of the western education for the women, so were perceived by the some Indians as unwelcome interference in their age-old social customs. So, the increasing presence of the missionaries was seen by the many Indians as an attempt by the British to persuade them to give up their religious belief. So, they looked upon this as a treat to their traditional culture and were determined to fight back to the British people by our Indian peoples, right? So India was ravaged by the series of famines in the colonial period. This is a picture showing how the famines was on that period, and this is a picture for the home for the widows, often as a child marriage. Girl as a young as 8 to 10 years would become the widows and be forced to spend the rest of their lives in the most miserable conditions, children. So the seventh one causes is a military causes. What is the military causes is nothing that, though an integral part of the British army, the sepoys had many reasons to be dissatisfied. The sepoys were paid for far less than the British soldiers. So actually, they treat the peoples of the Indian soldiers. It's so very illiterate. They treat them like a slave, and then further they could never hope to rise to their higher ranks in the army, which were exclusively reserved for the British soldiers. Okay, so the sepoys considered many requirements of the British army as direct threats to the religion. So they were banned from wearing turbans, beards, and other religious markers. So, moreover, the General Service Enlistment Act of the 1856 forced the new recruits to cross the seas to fight wars. If required, crossing the sea was a major taboo known as the Kalapani for many Hindus, as it was considered defiling. Okay, and the last one, that is the immediate causes. It is one of the most very rude causes of this revolt. That is, the British introduced the Enfield rifle. See, that is a rifle in this image. See, this is a rifle. Okay, this is a rifle, Enfield rifle, and in 1857, the rifle had a greased cartridge that had to be bitten open before being loaded into the rifle. Okay, and the rumor spread that the grease was made out of the cow or the pig fat. That is, the cows are considered sacred among the Hindus, while eating pigs is taboo for the Muslims. So this enraged the sepoys as they become convinced that the British were deliberately trying to insult their religion. Okay, so these are all the topics covered in this part 1, children. So let's recap what are the topics we learned from this chapter of part 1. That is, there are how many causes we learned? There are 8 causes, right? So first one is the economic causes, and the second one is the decline of the traditional industries, and the third one is the decline of the agriculture and the famines, and the fourth one is the land reform policies, and fifth one is the political causes, sixth one is the social and the religious causes, and then the military causes, and then the last one is the immediate cause. So these are all the causes, major, the most important causes for the revolt of for the creation of the revolt of 1857, children, by our Indian peoples against the British people. Okay, so that's all the chapter. So thank you all. Let's see in our part 2 video, children. Thank you all. Thank you.